Okay, so this is the monthly now meet on where we discuss where we are with the MDriven development and where we're going and where we have gone, and the general direction of what we aim to do with this long running project, and that's ever evolving but still in production. So that's a challenge, of course, both for us as a company to keep things rolling and keep things moving forward, and of course also for the user community to keep up and to know what changes to adopt and what changes to and to skip. So that's basically why we have these meetings, to as a chance to discuss both specific topics on the products themselves, but also more philosophical topics of system development and what makes that hard, and how the tools that we aim to produce and refine help with those challenges. And Lars, did you have the release notes document that we sent with the newsletter?
Well, I have the release notes on the website, which is
Yeah,
like
all right. Yeah.
more fully. I don't know what, if you're pointing, I think it's easy for you. Do you want me to screen share it?
Yeah, I can do it if you.
So because we go to mdriven.net, the wiki.mdriven.net or learn.mdriven.net, and then on the top you have release notes.
Yes.
I'll admit, Frederick.
Yes, good. And
We have Damien also.
entire screen.
Yeah, so on the top there you have the release notes, and we're pushing an effort to be better at all documentation, the ones you have been here before. So now we're having these. We have the mechanical ones, that is the change log, where you can see every check-in, and then we compile those every month into release notes, so that we curate a bit. So we want to point out the good stuff. Don't have to read the whole change log. And then we then take some of those things and put that in the newsletter. So you should also find in the coming newsletters at least a link where you just click and go straight to release notes. And I hope that helps you to use the product more fully, because then you see all the efforts that's been put into creating new things.
Yeah. Say again, was it on the wiki or on the blog?
The top there, release notes. Yeah, you see, we also need to teach our staff. Release notes in the top thing, Hans. Documentation, training, Q&A,
right.
model
Up here,
examples.
yeah, of course. Now I see it. Sorry.
So you'll have it here by the chopped up by the month.
Yeah. So this was the first month that we did this, and we will. The aim is to continue with this format, and this is a curated format from what we have had for a long time, and that's more or less just the dump from the check-in. So that's just check-in comments, and then you have to read and make sense of things yourself. So this is easier, and I thought that we could take a look, if there aren't any obvious other questions, we could take a look at these top ones and what they actually imply in the tool.
I can just point out there to everyone at the bottom. So if you scroll down, Hans, you'll have scroll all the way down. Yeah,
Oh,
and here you have the change logs for the different products. So if you want to go in and see the framework change log, for example, you have all the details here. At least that's what it should be. Yeah,
yeah,
there you go.
good.
So you can see all the checking comments for everything.
Yeah, and just for new listeners, there are basically these 4 products that we constantly refine, and they are all connected. And the MDriven framework is a Visual Studio plugin that makes your life model driven and your efforts, development efforts, model driven, and whatever that entails. And the same logic without the code generation is available in the MDriven Designer. And these 2 design tools produce a definition for a structured information system that can be executed straight off in the MDriven server, and holding all the data persistent in a database of your liking, of the flavor that you see fit, from the flavors that we support anyway. And the 4th product is the MDriven turnkey application, which takes the UI part and the application part of the information system. And what that entails are screens for presenting information and navigation between those screens with actions, and also actions that does other stuff with your information, change your information in some way. Yeah, but usually we do a demo during these sessions, picking a few new things to just prove that it's not all words, it actually works. So that's what we're going to do today as well. And if we pick these 2 up here, we have this enhanced selection behavior in yeah, so what that actually alludes to was that we whenever we, if we have a view like this, well, up front I can comment on some of the changes that are pretty new, is that we started to show the tagged values that are behind different things in the view model tree. So that these are definitions of what goes on screen, and if there were a tagged value, you had to go up here and look for it, and that was a bit annoying, of course. Now they are visible in the tree, and you can just double click them to get to them easier. So that makes a few things that might have been perceived as hidden more available. And so what this change note and alluded to was that if you have actual errors up here in the expressions, you of course get these notifications down here that you have an error, and whenever you click these, you are able to see that the correct column is highlighted, so that you know what it is you are supposed to fix. The problem was that whenever the error reside in an action, like this action is hooked up to an action called show model for something, and that's actually an opt-out action, so that's a different thing that we worked with. if the error is here, so there's something strange here, and let's see, let's make a change. The problem was that pressing this row didn't really tell you anything before. It just blinked, and what happens now is that you get this dialog up so that you may see what there is to change. So that's one of the effects of that change. And another thing that is described here is the introduction of hide on disable of actions. So what that means, I should fix these things. Is that the left side actions that are available, and when we run the application, we might as well do that so that we can directly see. So to run the application, I'm gonna start a turnkey server and go to live edit, and so if I run the application, when I look at this view all things, there supposed to be some actions defined for showing up in the running application. So whenever I select something here, I can see those actions here. And if there were rules that would well, let's take this from the start, because it's not super obvious, I guess. This if we have actions on this class, they are supposed to show up here because they are valid things to do. But then it became clear that not everything is valid to do every time, and that is especially the case when you have state machines. So this action add detail does a simple thing. It just adds take the self, which is a thing, and adds a detail. That's okay. What do we mean with the state machine? Let's add a state machine to this detail to prove the point of when actions might not be perfect to show. So a state machine is just a rule set that controls what state your state machine is in. So it's all pretty abstract once you start to have a real use case. So let's say that this detail that we're having the state machine on, and we can see that by going back and seeing that we have gotten an attribute called state, and that's just a string that will have one of the available states. In this case, it's just two states: the start, which we never actually occupy, we go straight to state number 3 in this case. But we're gonna refine that a bit. Show state machine. I'm gonna add some more states, and my imagination is poor, but what if this was some kind of production tracking, and then this would probably be called started, that some work has started on this, and from started one of our staff might want to take it from started to um, I guess one option would be to put it on hold, and one state would be called finished, and this fourth one I'm gonna call undecided. Undecided. And then we
Maybe you're wrong, so it finished. Otherwise, you'll be confused in the next step in your demo.
Yeah, good. So what I can do now is take this transition tool to describe what are the valid ways to move between these states. Of course, this we could do with any arbitrary piece of code to check if it is this, then it's okay with that, etc., etc. But the beauty of the state machine is that if we have this very clearly defined, it's much easier to describe to someone what the rules are, and it's sort of pre-documented or documented as a consequence of the definition. So there's no extra work involved. So once the object is created, it will end up in started. And apparently I'm able to put it on hold. Maybe I should be able to go to finished as well, and to undecided. And maybe from undecided I can go to on hold, and from on hold I might want to go back to started. So let's say that these are the valid transitions that we can do in the state machine, and that's fine. We're almost done. What we want to do is to put some triggers on here to actually make entry points to execute it, to actually move. So once we are on started, we want to put a trigger on the on this transition, move it to finished, and I can be as elaborate as I want in the naming, but I'm just gonna go with calling it what it's becoming. So I'm gonna call it finished. And there's different takes on how to naming your transitions. What we can do once we have this transition from start to finish that actually takes it to finish is to have some guards, that you're not allowed to do this until something else is fulfilled. And we can take a look at that soon, but I'm gonna, so this one going back to start, I'm gonna add a new trigger, calling it start, and I'm gonna call this one for on hold, and then I don't need to do a new one for this, which is moving it to on hold. I'm just gonna find the one that I had. Yeah, okay, I did it wrong. I remembered wrong. I'm gonna drop these triggers 1, 2, 3 because I only need these named ones. So moving it to on hold. So this is moving to start. Now I need to name this undecided. Undecided. And this one will also use that undecided thing over here. So that makes 1, 2, 3, 4 different actions that I can take, but these are as of now just methods on the class detail. I'm going to remove these triggers because I don't want them floating around. And I can remove these because they were not actually used in the state machine. So these are only methods, but then I want them to be actionable from a user, and then I do an action to actually execute this trigger. And there's a quick way to do that. Add a class action for trigger. I'm going to do that for finished and for undecided and for on hold.
Can I make a couple of comments, Hans?
Of course.
So to everyone watching, so that the best here, if you can have verbs for the action things like finish, if that is what you're doing. But sometimes it's the same, like Hans has done it here. But I usually, start out with having the same name. But then when you think about it more, it usually gets better if you actually find verbs and the states are more like the place where it is. So that's a good thing. And the other thing that I want to just say here, that these are more powerful than they look, and they are worth more time and effort than one thinks. And if you can't describe your problem in the state machine, you probably haven't thought it through, or you're wrong. So these are way more powerful than one thinks initially. So usually it really pays off to spend time, and you can have more than one state machine per object. And there are a lot of functionality where you have state machines in different objects, or multiple state machines that are different aspects. So when your state machine design breaks down, sometimes it's because you're trying to have two state things in one state machine. And if you break them apart, you have solved the problem. Okay, please continue, Hans.
Yeah, good. So this view didn't actually show the details that were added. It just had an action to add the details. So to mitigate that, I'm gonna the easiest way would just to add a new grid showing the details for the currently selected thing that's in this grid. So from this grid, I can make this fit in here. From this grid, I could see the details from the selected one. And I would go about that something like this, that I would add a column that is a list of something. And what should that be? Well, it started with the selected one, so that's the current of the of this one, which is named all thing. So v current of all thing, and for that one I would follow the association to the details and apply that, and then I have I can name it details for current thing, for example. And if I want it there, I'm not sure, let's have it there for now. And this one then points down to this, which isn't really finished. I can call this detail, and what I want to do here is to add some columns, and it's easier if I expressively say which type I mean this to have, which is a detail. And once I've done that, all the class actions that match on type, on class, will show up. So these are the actions that I created by right-clicking on the triggers in the state diagram. But of course, this is one of the points that it's not very, very useful for the user to see all of these actions since there's only a couple of them that will be enabled at a time, because these follow these rules. So whenever you are in start, you can only do well, on start you can actually do quite a lot. You can do on hold, you can do finished, and you can do undecided. But once you're undecided, you can't do a whole lot. You can put it back on hold, etc. So there's limitations on what's opportune to load the user with information wise to keep them a bit unstressed. And let's see if we can I can I'm gonna do this grid a bit smaller here to this grows, and I'm gonna say that this grows too as well, so they share space. And then we'll see this in the running application. So whenever I have one selected, let's see. This is having a min space, I think. Column row 2, and I'm going to do this one too as well. Let's see what happens when we grow this. So for this details for current thing, what happens when I do add detail here and select that detail, let's delete them first. And I'm gonna explain what I think happened here, why we didn't see any good actions. I'm gonna actually force this one to be a min size, primary direction min, force it to be a bit bigger. Okay, that's something we gotta shake. There's a lot of wait a minute. So recurrent details. Okay, I'm a bit confused, sorry for that. I'm gonna choose another one which doesn't have, and I'm gonna choose the last one. So this doesn't have any details yet, and then I'm gonna do add detail, and immediately I see that the options show up. Of course I didn't show the current state, so that's a problem. I'm gonna change this expression to self and then check the state of this one so that I can see it. Refresh please. No, okay, I'm back on the first one. I'm gonna go to the last one and sorry, cancel. Okay, stand on the last one and add a detail, and that detail then should show the okay, I didn't apply this self state apply and close and heading back here. So now this is started, and when I select it I see the options available for me, and if I put it into finished, what I then the options should reduce, and there's only actually one option from there. It's undecided. So I'm gonna go to finished, and these shrink down to undecided. So this has been like this for quite a while. The ability to hide actions that aren't that useful to the user at this point. We don't want to hide actions every time it's not enabled for a user, but sometimes we do want to do it. So it's a usability choice. It's an experience choice how to go about it. But when you want to do this hiding of actions, it was actually only feasible doing a state machine like this before. So that was sort of a limitation, and it was also a limitation that even for state machines there were cases where this didn't really work. We're going to see such a case. If I go on to undecided, I would assume to see a few more options here then I can go to on hold, and that's correct. I can go to on hold. So if I go to on hold, I can go to start, and once I go to start, I can reach all of these again. So that sort of works, and we're going to see on this these class actions that we created, the ability to actually hide them was predicated on them using the thing that we call the trigger query. So all methods has a query operator, which is the question mark, that will enable evaluate to a boolean to see, is this enabled, question mark, will we be able to go here? And if we discover that this was the pattern of the expression, then we also hid the action if it wasn't enabled. And this was all good until someone decided that we're gonna have some more criterias here, like if something else is true. And that could be any expression, of course. And then it didn't follow the pattern. And then all these actions started to showing up again all the time. And that wasn't very good. So a better way that we introduce now with this release is to allow for any action to be hide on disabled. And particularly the actions that you create this way. So this, when you do an action this way, add a class action for trigger, that will automatically set this checkbox. So the old way still is in effect, but this is the new way to decide if an action should be visible on disable. So that's a more robust way that allows us to have any kind of expression in the enable expression, really, if there are further things, but we still want to hide it or something like that. And of course, you don't always want to hide things if they are disabled, so it's definitely an option. The negative thing with hiding actions is that a user which isn't allowed to do a thing because they haven't filled in all the information or doesn't have the access rights, etc., they will call support and be a total loss on what to do next. And it's much better to show them the disabled actions as grayed out items so that they know that this is a viable option that's actually there. It's just that I'm missing something. And then it's more like a treasure hunt to find out what it is they are missing. So that's how we build UX over at MDriven. Treasure hunts. Good.
Can I make a, I'm a huge fan of state machines. Can I just mention, Hans, a couple of things that people should be aware of? Very, very powerful if you build enterprise software. And that is to not only use state machines in the UI for the users. So the state machines are great, great ways to actually let code run both, you could say, in the front end and in the MDriven server. And there is an OCL or EAL operator, action language operator, that says trigger the state machine and do whatever you need to do. So, and then you actually put methods, you put like effects on this on the state machine. So you say, when this path is taken, do this. That means that you can set a state like please invoice in the UI. And then there is on the server side, you have a server side job that says, give me all state machines of this class that I can do something with. And there are many ways to do that. There are ways to handle that. And then on the server side, you just say, hey, try to execute this state machine. And then it will do what the trigger says it should do, like invoice, this state machine trigger, and it will do what it's supposed to do and save what it's done. And that turns out to be super powerful because it means that you as a designer of this software, you don't really need to think about where code is executing. It's like hidden from you. If it goes into this state, it will be executed from wherever you want it to be executed. And we have that, you can use the built-in MDriven server features for this, but you could also have, like we have had that in other places, you have a separate machine that only processes these things that it needs to be doing. So very, very good way of like making like the machinery tick. So you say like state machine. Yeah, where's the machine part of it? Well, you could say that this is not just state tracking, it's actually machine doing things. And that way you can like ping pong a whole series of steps in between the user and the system. So we have that in applications running, that the user starts something, the server emails, and when it has emailed, there's another trigger that fires off and sends these things. And because of it's all subscribed, right, the user interface is immediately updated. So you can say, do that, the server does it, and then when the state changes back, it highlights the next thing that can be done. So it just hides so much complexity. And then you can combine that also with the ability to fire off these server-side, what are they called now, Hans? Async tickets, yes, which is a very nice way to say, hey, do this. So what I've done in several projects is that you have state machines that when it goes into a state that the user does, it creates a sync ticket job that says like, hey, have a look at this object, and it by yourself that, and you just put these in different places, and all of a sudden you have this self-playing piano thing, right? That does the right thing at the right time, and you don't have to worry that things are not happening because they're like triggering each other, and it's all also, you know, held in a good state way. So if you just shut down the server in the middle and wake it up, well, because of transactional integrity, it will just continue going. So you get this really nice separation of the logic from the execution part. So, and we have examples for this, and there are templates that you can download that uses all these features, and it helps a ton if you have things that you need actually to like process in the background and do things, or you can have things like you get a call from a REST API and it moves something into like process, and then you have this generic engine that processes. So it's you can
Yeah.
put all your logic into methods and just make it run.
Yeah. So one of the important aspect is that you can add entry actions. So whenever you actually end up in a specific state, you can call on anything else. So a state machine might be something very process-like in a business flow, or it may be something very technical in a technical flow. It doesn't matter. And what we have seen is that it really shrinks away massive amounts of code, of repeatable code, since it's we don't really need to track all cases. We just need to describe the possible ways. So and that makes um, every state change sort of a separate concern. Is it what should happen once I'm finished? Should I send an email to someone? Should I produce a report of all that has been done? Or should I trigger another state machine, a delivery state machine that says that delivery has started, etc. So, and that in data there's very little to track, and everything is just this state attribute, which can only have one value at a time. But in reality, in the definition of the system, there could be, this replaces thousands of possible operations and checks. And of course, the checks can go on the guard. Are you even allowed to move this way? So possibly you have to have
You
some
can add an
criteria.
effect there also if you want to have different effects for different ways to reach a state. And then I usually add in the exception handler for the background job, there's a state called like there was a problem. And then you can immediately see what failed, and you can signal that to the user. And then you can search for the ones that has state failed, and someone can do corrective action. And then there's out of that state, there's like try again and things like that. So yeah, it's if you
So
haven't used it, you know, think through where you are and look at the examples. It's magic. But of course, it takes some time to get used to, and it's only, you know, I think my way into using them were that I thought that it had to be as difficult as it always had been to handle all these things. And then the more we use them and the more you come up with them, you can see that they actually like does things really nice on their own. We have things, for example, that when you are supposed to monitor to remind someone of something, you have a state that says like it's paused here, and then the guard says when should you that can you move to remind people, remind them, and then you have something that just goes through and sees, oh, is it time up yet? Can I go this way? No, I can't. Okay, then let's try tomorrow. No, I can't go. oh, now I can go. And when it goes to that state that it's reminded someone, well, the effect of going that way in the state machine is sending an email.
Yeah, I've
So
used state machines in a couple of different instances, and they have been really useful. One indirect way they've been useful as well is for actually explaining to users what's going on in the process. And it can be a diagram. I mean, you might not necessarily show everything that's on the state machine. You can show a more sanitized version, but it's a beautiful way of showing the flow of really actually what's happening behind. But I've used it in fairly sanitary kind of ways like that. I haven't really gone to the, because what you seem to be suggesting earlier on was you could almost use it as a replacement for certain tasks that would otherwise be async await kind of tasks. So I was going to ask you, I mean, can it be used in that sense? I mean, how does it work thread-wise?
Yeah, I mean that in it depends on what we're saying. Are we talking threads in a web browser? I wouldn't use it. But if we're talking like business logic, yes, wait and async and all those things, most of them are actually much better to scale by saving what to do next in the database. And then you can have any process really looking at what next to do. The question is, how do you trigger what next to do? And then we have this async pattern that is really efficient at finding out what to do next. But of course, you could also just have server-side jobs that has a SQL query that looks on what to do. But if you want it to be really like, if you want to use it in many places, and you want it to be like a ubiquitous feature of your whole machine, then you use these async jobs, and you use the query to trigger the state machines to move things, and then you will have that effect. We have this very complicated, for example, application where uh, you register things, and then things are supposed to happen on time delay. It's like, yeah, now this has been registered, and there's like a guard time, and then 20 minutes later it locks it, and then it sends emails, and depending on the responses it should. So there's like a whole ton of things, and there are many objects, and they can all be locked or unlocked, and all these things. So there are like, I don't know, 10 state machines that also then push on each other. So then when one gets you do something here, it pushes on a state machine there. And as Hans alluded to, the main thing here is that you don't need to keep everything in your mind at once. It's only what should this trigger do, or this state transaction do. So it really clears things up. And then it's also much easier to debug, because if you stop your background engine, you can easily just run it by hand by clicking on the actions. So you can actually see, is this whole machine working? And then you can like turn on the automation again. So it removes this whole problem of orchestrating different things
and
going on.
and everyone is talking about working in parallel instead of serially, because that doesn't scale. And in order to work in parallel really easily, use state machines. So you naturally think of your problem as a mesh of different um, endpoints where you can end up. And of course, all of those endpoints can be valid under certain circumstances, but you don't have to do the serial thinking on how to get there. You can just do if you have thousands of these processes at the same time, you will take the ones that actually can move to the next state, and that might it's like Tetris. Once you do one thing, new things opens up. So and that's a very efficient way to break down complex information flows, because I've seen a lot of examples where people try to do I had this one scenario where we're distributing newspapers, and there was this big transaction at the end of the evening, just prior to printing was commencing, that locked the database for 20 minutes when no one could do anything, and everything should happen then. We should figure out who subscribed and who paid, and who was on their vacation home and should have the paper somewhere else, etc., for millions of users, and that just locked everything down. And all that came from the idea that you had to wait until you had all the information. But that is, of course, a ridiculous idea, because you don't have to wait. You can do 99.9% ahead of time. You can solve for all the subscribers ahead of time, and then just move the ones that come in late with they are moving to their vacation home for a week. Let them come in a minute before deadline. That's fine. That will be less than 1% of the items, and those can go separately, and that sort of ends up in the net effect is that we have done all the work parallel, so there's no lock at all. But in order to do this, you really have to understand the business rules and how they interlock, because it might be you might get brain freeze when you think, what will happen if someone says something very late? We better lock the database. That's the junior way of going about these things, but that's never scales.
Hans, how did we end up in state machines? I mean, you were at this.
So
we only have 7 minutes left.
Yeah. So we ended up in state machines because we had this item on the
But I hope everyone liked the talk anyway, because I think state machines should have some light on them. But you have other things.
So it's the hide on disable. So that was prior just a feature of the state machine related actions, but it now is available for any type of action. And of course, if you have a state machine action that has more things in the enable expression, so that it breaks the pattern that we looked for. So it's a more robust implementation. Good. We also have this one. Not sure, is this available in the advanced grid? Yeah, we need to say that this should be multi-select in order to show it.
I think it actually works even without that, Hans, isn't it?
No, because there's no there's no way to put the information. We add a,
because nowadays you don't even need the checkboxes for it to work.
I know, but we still need to have the expression to bind to what's behind the checkbox for it to work. So once you have said that one of your web grids should be multi-select, there's a column up here, and up until recently this was the basically the only way to create a multi-select. But what we can do now is to check the keyboard, so it works pretty much the same as on a desktop app. If you hold down Shift, it will do the flow between the ones, and if you hold down Control, it will add or remove separately. So that turned out really well to help you handle multi-select. And of course, once you have multi-select, that's easily described or shown what the selects are. We're gonna call this one multi-select, because just the same as we have the V current, we have the V selected available whenever there is a multi-select. So that will be a collection of things. So we could collect over that collection, having a loop variable called x, and take one of the attributes, for example, some string. Now we will have a collection of strings, and we can do that as a comma list. We can put that on top so that we see it. And if I refresh this one, then it's okay.
It's already there, right?
Okay, I didn't. That's. Oh, it's.
Oh, it's
Yeah, it's something with
underneath that.
Yeah. I'm gonna do it like this then. So there's something fishy. I did some changes today, and I think they are messing things up. But oh no, I wasn't supposed to do that. I was supposed to change this to a column, and I'm gonna move that one there, and this one here, and multi-select in the row. Yeah, I don't know, but oh, that was unfortunately. I'm gonna move this one up as a sibling above. Okay. No. Sibling above. Yeah. Now we'll see these. If I select many, I will see a comma separated list of the strings here. So I can see that it works. And of course, these are also great for actions, because when you want to execute something in on multiple things, when the user has selected multiple things, you would just do the same strategy as I did here, but in the action. So you collect, and then you do the action over the whole collection of selected items. So if you consequently use multi-select in your grids, or want to allow that, you should use vSelected all thing collect instead of vCurrent, because then all the actions would work not only on the currently selected, but on the whole set of the selected items.
Then I would say that it's better to use for each, which is the same as collect, but it's more like you understand that it's actually doing stuff.
Yeah.
Collect is OCL, and for each is action language.
Yeah. Good. So we're running out of time, but we have had a good run on describing 2 of the items on the
on the very long list.
On the long list. So that's better than nothing. Yeah, and we will keep at it. And this meeting has changed to monthly now, and the last Wednesday in the month we have chosen to be the Wednesday, and it's always the same time and always the same link. So very welcome back when it's time for the next one, and we'll see what we discuss then.
I have some more minutes, so we can officially end the meeting. But if anyone have any question, I mean, I can stay a few minutes because we haven't given you much chance to ask anything.